Our story begins with the Shinhwa Group, the biggest empire in Korea, a family that owns electronics, oil, cars, and basically the air everyone breathes. Its founder once turned down a government medal and asked to build a private school instead, and so Shinhwa School was born, made for the 1% and fit for the 1%. Common people can apply the day they are born and still never make it past the front door. But inside this perfect school, something is quietly going very wrong. A terrified boy named Minha is being hunted through the halls by a mob of students who want to beat him bloody. In the middle of the chaos, a cheerful delivery girl wanders in carrying a bag of dry cleaning, completely oblivious to the manhunt around her. This is our heroine, Jandy, just dropping off an order from her family's little shop, with no idea this one ordinary delivery is about to flip her whole life upside down. Word spreads that the bullied boy has climbed onto the rooftop, covered in blood, ready to jump. The whole school gathers on the ground to watch, some of them treating a boy's breaking point like it's a show. Jandy sprints up to the roof and stops him the only way she knows how, by loudly demanding he pay his $30 dry cleaning bill first. She haggles him down, insists he become a regular customer, and jokes he can bill his house after he's dead, which snaps him right out of his despair. It's a wonderfully absurd rescue, saving a life through customer service instead of a speech. Minha tearfully warns her this isn't a school, it's hell, and asks if she's heard of F4, the 4 rich boys whose word is law here. The moment you get a red card from them, he explains, you become prey for the entire school. Jandy, fearless and clueless, scoffs that it's always the lame losers who strut around acting like they're hot. The next morning, Jandy's rooftop rescue has exploded across every news channel in the country, and the headlines crown her a common wonder girl. Overnight, one dry cleaning delivery has turned a broke high schooler into a symbol of the ordinary people against the ultra-rich. Jandy herself is unimpressed, snorting that flower 4 should really be called fly 4, since flies also herd around garbage. But high in a Shinhwa tower, a coldly elegant woman is not laughing at all. This is Madame Kang, the ruthless CEO, furious that her son Junpyo's name is leaking into the reporters' mouths. Whoever started the fire, she says, must be the one to put it out, and her cold solution is simple. She will pull the little hero inside Shinhwa itself, so the scandal quietly burns out. Back at the shop, a sharp-suited man is waiting on the CEO's behalf, and then comes the bombshell, delivered by her overjoyed parents. Starting tomorrow, Jandy will attend Shinhwa High as a special scholarship student, invited to swim on the team like she did back in junior high. Her answer is blunt, no thanks, she doesn't belong there, but the secretary smoothly overrules her, and the whole family goes wild, chanting Shinhwa High like they've won the lottery. Something about the deal feels off to Jandy, and she refuses to be bought by a fancy swimming pool. But her parents know her too well, because a school with a real pool is exactly the bait she can't resist. And so, cheered on by her family, she reluctantly sets off through the glittering gates. Inside, we meet the school's queen bees, 3 wealthy mean girls fawning over designer earrings and impossibly rare shirts. One brags that only 2 of her shirts exist in the entire country, and the only other owner is the great Gu Junpyo himself. Jandy, lost in this palace of a school, innocently asks where the swimming pool is and wanders off, with no idea she just walked straight into enemy territory. Then the whole courtyard freezes and a hush falls over the crowd, because the legendary F4 have finally arrived. Students part like water as the 4 boys pass through. One of the F4 boys coldly gives a trembling student 3 seconds to get out of his sight, and his friends humiliate the boy for sport while the crowd watches in silence. Jandy, horrified, rushes to help and calls the whole pack of them crazy jerks. The 3 mean girls swoop in as the 3 beauties of Shinhwa and gasp that the boys she just insulted are the untouchable F4, the same monsters who humiliated Minha. When she asks what's so great about them, the girls are scandalized that anyone could not know. So they run down each prince. First Song Woo-bin, heir to a construction empire tangled up in gangs and nightclubs, whose family reportedly owns half of Jeju Island. Then So Yi-young, a genius potter from the family that owns the country's biggest art museum. Then Yoon Jae-hoo, the gentle grandson of a former president, orphaned as a small child and the sole survivor of a fatal car accident, the soft and wounded one of the group. And finally, the leader Gu Junpyo, sole heir to the Shinhwa group, head of F4, complete with his famously enormous curly perm. Together, these four boys rule every student like their own private kingdom. Jandy is unimpressed and lets loose, ranting that anyone born that blessed should just live gratefully instead of acting like a spoiled public nuisance, and swearing that the day she ever has to call Junpyo her senior is the day she dives off the rooftop herself. Suddenly, a soft voice interrupts. She turns to find a sleepy, gentle boy watching her, and it's Jae-hoo, who mildly complains her shouting woke him from his nap. Instead of scolding her, he just gently corrects her. It's Gu Junpyo, not Gu Youngpyo, so at least get the name right. It's a tiny kind moment, and it's enough to spark Jandy's very first crush at this cruel school. The next day at lunch, Jandy sits alone eating homemade rice balls in a cafeteria of gourmet spreads. The mean girls float over to call her cheap lunch foul-smelling, and when they ask if she really plans to eat this every day, she cheerfully says yes, she absolutely does. At home, her mom slathers cucumber on her face, insisting that if Jandy becomes a beauty, even the poorest boy at Shinhwa would be a dream husband. In this family, a face mask isn't skincare, it's a long-term financial investment. Meanwhile, her father lovingly irons a borrowed designer uniform, treating it like a family heirloom. Watching her family fuss, something reignites in Jandy. She decides the strong girl inside her isn't dead after all, and since she's already a ruined outcast, she might as well say every single thing that needs saying. She points at an imaginary F4 and declares that starting tomorrow, they are all dead. The next day, a hopeful girl offers Junpyo cookies she baked herself, and he coldly rejects her. Jandy has had enough and marches right up, blasting him for having zero manners, telling him he could at least reject the girl kindly instead of crushing her sincerity. But when he coldly asks if she has something to say, a rattled Jandy backs down with a small no. Later, she punishes herself with brutal laps in the pool, disgusted by her own cowardice. But her one bit of peace shatters when she spots her sweet friend Min Jae cowering before Junpyo, who is furious that she scuffed his handmade shoe. When the terrified girl offers to do anything to make it right, Junpyo's answer is chilling. He orders her to get down and lick the dirty shoe. This is the moment the drama shows us just how casually cruel this pampered prince can be. Jandy steps in, snapping at him to stop, since the girl only tripped by accident. Junpyo mocks the whole idea of friendship, claiming the word doesn't exist in a wealthy person's dictionary, then twists the knife, telling Jandy that if she licks the dirty shoe instead, he'll forget the whole thing ever happened. In answer, Jandy grabs a drink and hurls it right into Gu Junpyo's smug face in front of the entire horrified school. No one in the history of Shinhwa has ever dared treat Gu Junpyo like this, and the whole school stands frozen in disbelief. For the rest of the day he sits shell-shocked, and by nightfall he darkly vows that Jandy Cleaners is now very, very dead.
떴다 떴어! 2학년 비반 당첨! 여기가 무슨 축구장이야? 레드카드는 무슨...
The next morning, the dreaded red card appears on Jandy's desk, officially marking her as F4's chosen prey. The bullying begins instantly as classmates shove her, hide her desk, and sneer that a common girl doesn't belong studying beside them. A mob corners her and dumps buckets of flour and eggs all over the priceless, borrowed uniform her father so lovingly ironed. As the flour rains down, she remembers her dad calling that uniform her precious inheritance, telling her to keep it spotless, and that tender memory is the thing that keeps her standing tall instead of crumbling. Watching from above, the F4 boys casually bet she'll break within 3 days, and Junpyo smugly counts down, expecting a humiliated Jandy to come crawling out in tears. But she doesn't appear, and the boys grow confused about where their victim has gone. Then Jandy storms out, refusing to surrender, and declares they touched exactly the wrong person this time. She fires off a legendary rant about eating dumplings boiled from her own tears and mastering freestyle in a bathtub, because common Koreans survive on pure grit. Then she lectures them that flour is like gold dust and demands to know how many crates of eggs they just wasted. Just then Jae-hoo drifts in and, ignoring the standoff, sleepily asks Jandy if she knows how to make pancakes. Later he quietly offers her his handkerchief and softly admits the school got a little less lonely thanks to a certain someone. It's the gentlest thing anyone has said to her here, and her crush on Jae-hoo only grows deeper. Over a week later, the boys marvel that Jandy still hasn't surrendered, making her the first person ever to truly stand up to F4. Junpyo insists he's just going easy on her, clearly unwilling to admit this stubborn girl has gotten under his skin. Then Junpyo drops his own bombshell theory. No matter how he thinks about it, he decides Jandy must be totally into him. After all, he reasons, he's good-looking, tall, smart, and rich, so how could any girl possibly dislike Junpyo? The self-confidence is breathtaking, especially from the boy she literally splashed a drink onto. Then everything erupts as panicked voices scream that Junpyo has fallen into the pool and won't wake up. Students beg the unconscious heir to open his eyes, and the episode slams to a halt on that cliffhanger.
준표! 구준표 선배가 불장에 빠졌어요!
We pick up with Jandy caught in an ambush from Junpyo's goons when a clueless science club boy stumbles in asking about a pancake recipe, and somehow that ridiculous interruption breaks the whole tense standoff. But the real rescuer wasn't the pancake boy. Jae-hoo was watching quietly nearby, though he insists he wasn't helping, he just couldn't stand watching such annoying behavior. It turns out Junpyo himself is furious with his own thugs because he only told them to scare Jandy, not to actually rough her up. Even the arrogant heir, it seems, has one line he won't cross. Then a poisonous rumor spreads that a second-year student at Shinhwa has been seen going in and out of an obstetrics hospital, tagged only as Miss K. At school, it explodes into an ugly witch hunt, students gleefully hunting for the pregnant girl, sneering that she should just leave. Then the truth detonates. An urgent bulletin confirms the identity of Miss K, and it's Jandy. In class, the bullying turns grotesque, students holding their noses and demanding perfume just to breathe near her, until Jandy finally cracks. Then she does the unthinkable. She grabs Junpyo and roars that she's a chaste girl who has never even held a boy's hand, and how dare he spread such filth about her. She threatens that if he keeps this up, she'll really kill him, landing a spinning back kick on the great Junpyo as the whole student body freezes in disbelief.
너! 또 있다, 이 더러운 장...
Instead of exploding, Junpyo is oddly delighted. Then comes the twist only his ego could produce. He decides that a girl always says the opposite of what she means, so her hatred is really deep infatuation, and she's clearly saving her first kiss for him. This is a man building an entire fantasy out of a beating. The next morning, 2 mysterious men in suits chase Jandy down and haul her off despite her struggling, leaving her convinced she's being kidnapped. She wakes to a heavenly fragrance and gentle hands, and for one blissful second thinks she's in paradise, until a beauty team starts debating liposuction, laser, and waxing. Paradise cancelled. For a heart-stopping moment, she sees Jae-hoo and lights up, but the mystery host is not the gentle one she hoped for. It's Junpyo lounging in his colossal home, and he makes his grand romantic gesture. If she just obeys, he'll graciously treat her as the almighty Junpyo's girlfriend, but only whenever nobody is watching. Truly every girl's dream, a secret part-time relationship. He reminds her $100,000 was spent on her makeover and brags she could enjoy that much every day, then asks if she's really turning it down. Jandy delivers the crushing blow, saying being kidnapped by a psycho like him makes bugs feel like they're crawling all over her body the moment she sees his face.
당장 내 교복 갖고 와!
Later, Jandy tries to teach him something that friends can't be bought with money, you reach them with your heart. He scoffs that there's nothing money can't buy and challenges her to name one thing it can't purchase, and caught off guard, she can't think of an answer and slips away mortified. Outside, she runs into Jae-hoo and asks him the very question that stumped her, whether there's anything in this world money truly cannot buy. Jae-hoo answers simply, air, and Jandy lights up, thrilled to finally have her comeback. Then he lends her his own shoes so she won't walk home in the mansion's fancy outfit, a small kindness that lands far harder than anything Junpyo bought. Days later, returning the shoes, Jandy is invited to tea by Junpyo's warm older sister Junhee, who is genuinely impressed that nobody has ever dared show Junpyo such raw anger. When talk turns to a model named Min Seo-hyun, Jandy asks whether she and Jae-hoo are acquainted, and the mood grows quiet. Junhee reveals that when Jae-hoo was 5, a car accident killed both his parents on the spot. He retreated into a silent, withdrawn shell until one person pulled him back into the world, and that person was Min Seo-hyun. To the others, she's just a childhood friend, but to Jae-hoo they say she is his first love, his girlfriend, and his mother all at once. Suddenly his sad, faraway stares make a lot more sense. The next school day, the bullies return with fists, and this time they physically strike Jandy, drawing blood as her classmates cheer. The crowd celebrates her pain, a low point that shows just how alone she is inside these gilded walls. Then Junpyo appears and, of all things, kneels to tend her wound, scolding her for letting herself get hit in the face. When he tells her not to cry because it doesn't suit her, she lashes out, asking who gave him permission to decide when she cries. She swears that if everyone on Earth died and only Junpyo was left, she'd rather bleed to death than be indebted to him. Genuinely baffled, he demands to know what she could possibly hate, listing that he's good-looking, tall, smart, and rich. So Jandy gives him the full itemized list. The way he looks, the way he walks, and yes, that stupid curly perm, an insult that will haunt him for years. She hates his crowd, picking on weak kids for fun, and she finishes by declaring flat out that she hates absolutely everything about Gu Junpyo.
한마디로 구준표, 너란 인간 모든 게 다.
Soon the school announces a month-long trip to Europe for the upper years, and when Jandy hears it costs $20,000, her jaw drops because that's not a school trip, that's a down payment on a house. With her father's latest disaster leaving the family broke, she quietly decides to skip it and treat the month as a working holiday instead. She and her best friend Ga-yeol land a job by the South Sea. Meanwhile, at the airport, Junpyo insists on flying commercial with the other students, claiming the suffering will be a precious memory, all while glancing around, refusing to admit even to himself that he's looking for Jandy. Then the airport erupts as the real Min Seo-hyun arrives in the flesh. Jae-hoo meets her with quiet warmth, and the tenderness between them tells Jandy everything she feared about the depth of that bond. Down at the seaside, Jandy and Ga-yeol are happily singing fishing songs, blissfully far from private jets and red cards, when a horribly familiar voice calls her dry cleaner and commoner. The whole F4 has somehow turned up here, and Junpyo, unable to resist mocking her rickety fishing boat, actually shoves her off into the freezing sea. The kind Seo Hyun warmly invites Jandy to the welcome party being thrown for her, and Ga Yul insists she must go. But there's a catch nobody spelled out, and the mischievous classmates offer to dress Jandy up for the party themselves, promising the outfit fits her to a T. Wanting so badly to belong for one night, she believes them. Too late, Jandy realizes she's been set up. At the party, the mean girls fuss that she must be hot and coax her out of her coat, savoring the trap about to spring. The coat comes off to reveal a ridiculous Wonder Woman costume, and the whole party bursts into laughter, the queen bee sneering that Jandy clearly can't tell reality from imagination anymore. Then Jae-hoo steps forward and quietly turns the shame back on the bullies, telling the queen bee that this stunt only proves how low she is, not Jandy. He personally helps the humiliated girl away to his own room, a boldness nobody expected from the quiet one, and the other F4 boys are baffled, having never seen gentle Jae-hoo do something so protective. Seo Hyun tells Jandy that Jae-hoo standing up for someone is the first time she has ever seen him do it, which means Jandy must be genuinely special to him. Then she offers a startling refrain that Junpyo acts out because he's lonely, wrapping that loneliness in violence. From the day he was born, she explains, Junpyo was never treated as a normal son, only as his family company's heir, and he sees his parents barely a month a year. Her parting words plant a seed for the whole series. She tells Jandy not to lose to him and that because she likes her, she'll be cheering her on. But as the night ends, a jealous rival watches Jandy's rise. Drunk and seething, the bitter girl hisses that Jandy is a sly snake hidden under an innocent face, fuming that Jae-hoo smiles whenever he mentions her, and demanding to know what right this commoner has to be near him. We stay at Seo Hyun's glamorous party, where a maid-over Jandy is soaking up the attention like she's floating on a cloud, which mostly means she's standing on Jae-hoo's borrowed shoes and forgetting to move.
뭐야?
Then chaos erupts by the poolside. Someone slips, water goes flying, and a body hits the surface. It's Gu Junpyo, and he sinks straight down because the one thing the mighty heir of Shinhwa cannot do, it turns out, is swim. Jandy doesn't hesitate. She dives in, drags him out, and revives him, and the moment he coughs back to life and sees her face, he calls her scum. A truly grateful rescue. The next morning, something is very wrong with Gu Junpyo. He wakes up cheerful and rushes to school early, a sight nobody at the mansion has ever witnessed. But the sunny mood evaporates the second he spots Jandy, and soon he's chasing her around, bellowing that she won't get away. When the rest of F4 point out that this poor girl literally saved his life, he explains his twisted logic, that tormenting her is his way of saying thank you, because why else would the great Gu Junpyo bother with someone so lowly? Then gossip reaches him that Jandy supposedly wants Jae-hoo too, and the whispers turn poisonous, his friends warning that Jae-hoo only protects that weed because the two must be together. Junpyo snaps, threatening to break the neck of the next person who says another word, but the damage is done. By the pool, he corners Jandy, accusing her of toying with F4, and when she tries to leave, he grabs her and won't let go. She cries out no over and over until he finally stops, and even for a spoiled heir this crosses a line, something in him flickering with shame. He asks quietly whether he's really that loathsome to her, and for once there's no arrogance in it, just a boy who doesn't understand why he can't win her over. The next day, an elegant invitation arrives to Min Seo Hyun's 23rd birthday party, and Jandy's parents lose their minds with joy, until reality lands and her father apologizes that they can't afford a dress fine enough. And right on cue, because this is that kind of show, a stunning dress arrives at the door, sent personally by Seo Hyun herself. At the party, Seo Hyun steps up to make a toast, and everyone assumes she and Jae-hoo are about to announce an engagement. Instead, she drops a very different bomb. She's returning to Paris next week, and she doesn't think she's ever coming back. She'd rather use her own abilities and choose a harder, freer road than inherit her family's fortune, and she staged this whole party because it was the only way to convince everyone she loves to let her go. Somewhere quieter, Jae-hoo finally confronts her, holding a keepsake he's kept for years. He tells her that for 15 years he has looked only at her, and he asks if that isn't enough because he's a man now and he wants to hold her like one. All she can offer is a heartbroken apology, telling him again and again that she's truly sorry. 15 years and the answer is I'm sorry. Outside, Junpyo whisks a reeling Jandy off for a drive and the two start haggling over her pool rescue like a market negotiation, he offering 10% repaid, she demanding 50%. Then he gets to the real point, asking if seeing Jae-hoo and Seo Hyun together broke her heart. Jandy insists someone like her could never be Seo Hyun's rival, listing every flaw she has. But then Junpyo says something that lands differently. He tells her that if Jae-hoo had met her before Seo Hyun, he would have fallen for her for sure. Her family, looks, and brains may all score 0, he says, but she's the first woman ever recognized by Gu Junpyo, and on those qualifications she gets full marks. Overheated and dizzy from the emotional roller coaster, Jandy spots something to drink and pours the whole thing down without a second thought.
가지가지한다 진짜.
Junpyo finds her utterly wasted and drunk. Jandy, it turns out, has no filter. She unloads her whole exhausting life, that she gets bullied daily and works part-time jobs because her dad keeps getting into trouble, so she simply has no time to play the game of love with rich boys like him. Instead of being offended, Junpyo watches this tiny drunk tornado and finds himself smiling despite everything, even knocking her repayment down to half. She leans in to thank him and promptly passes out right on him. She wakes the next morning at his place, groggy and horrified, and he smugly explains she was in no condition to go home, so he called her parents, adding that they didn't actually seem worried at all, which says a lot about her family's faith in her survival instincts. But before she can slip out, panic breaks loose. Madam Kang, Junpyo's terrifying mother, has arrived far too early, and there is no way to sneak Jandy out. The boys spring into a frantic operation to hide her, half joking that by tomorrow Junpyo could be shipped off to Alaska because his mother is that scary. Then the worst happens. Madam Kang finds Jandy and coolly asks who she is. Junhee jumps in to claim her as a guest, and the boys scramble a cover story that Jandy is F4's adorable little mascot and the daughter of a famous fashion businessman, spinning her dad's dry cleaning into a Milan empire. Unconvinced, Madam Kang quietly orders her assistant to dig into the girl's family, because if she decides to single Jandy out, her whole family could lose everything. A grand charity auction begins, and one item up for sale turns out to be a pair of swim goggles Jandy's own family owned, sending her parents into a frenzy over the $2,000. Fed up with the lies and the whole gilded circus, Jandy finally gives up and walks out, and Junpyo chases after her.
나 갈게.
뭐? 안 들려.
고맙다고.
뭐?
Outside, Jandy stiffly thanks him but ruins it by tacking on the word anyway, so he makes her repeat it until she's practically shouting her gratitude, then calls after her, half scolding and half tender, that she'd better never drink again when he isn't around to catch her. His version of caring. The next day, Seo Hyun comes to school one last time before she leaves the country for good. She tells Jandy something that lands like a gift that she knew from the moment they met. Jandy is the person Jae-hoo always smiles about. "It's you," she says. And then Jandy does something desperate. She drops to the ground and begs Seo Hyun, on Jae-hoo's behalf, not to leave. She describes the quiet sadness he always carries and how his rare smile can thaw a whole room, and says that Seo Hyun is the only one who can make him smile like that, so if she leaves this way, he might never smile again. Deeply moved, Seo Hyun helps her up and gently explains that regret is crueler than any goodbye, and that Jae-hoo would never want to watch her live a life full of it. Then, in a beautiful gesture, she gives Jandy her own shoes and asks just one thing in return, to help their Jae-hoo find his smile again, passing the torch to the very girl the story is quietly pairing him with. But someone was watching. It's Junpyo, furious, demanding to know who Jandy thinks she is to grovel on the ground for another man. He sneers that she has no pride at all, but the real wound is jealousy, and he's terrible at hiding it. Jandy answers quietly that it wasn't about pride, it was because Seo Hyun was hurting too much for her to just stand by. Then the ground gives way beneath her. Rumors explode that Jandy and Gu Junpyo are a couple, and the students turn on her, snarling that lying to Junpyo is the same as lying to all of them. The chapter slams shut on the ultimate threat, one of them coldly telling Jandy that from now on they don't know her, leaving her stranded as the target of the entire school with everything about to get so much worse.